Welcome to the Russell Hantz Show. We've got a great interview with Coach. He doesn't do interviews much, so we are very lucky to have him on the show. You know, we're going to be specifically talking about how Coach impacted me personally on Survivor before we even met. I also have a few updates and news for you guys. We are planning a big premiere show on September the 27th in Los Angeles for Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. I'll be there personally, and we'll have big guests. We'll have more information as we get closer. I want to personally thank everyone for their continuous support of the show. We've been in the top 9 on iTunes in the US and top 3 on iTunes in Australia. We're also setting up a Patreon group very soon. If you become a patron of the show, you'll get tons of bonus contacts like special episodes, videos, access to our Facebook group. We're also going to be doing live Facebook at that planned party on September the 27th, so that should be exciting. We'll be posting as it comes along. And again, I appreciate y'all listening. As long as y'all have questions and as long as I have fans, I'll be doing this. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, on to my interview with Coach, the Dragonslayer. What's up, man?
Hey, man, how you doing?
How you been? It's been a long time since I don't think we've seen each other since Heroes versus Villains.
Yeah, when you voted me out, thank you very much.
Well, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, man. You know, that was a hairy situation there, but we'll get to that. We'll get to all that. But what I want to do, man, I want to say that, I want to say how you impact me personally. I'm gonna tell you a few things that you probably don't even know. Because I played season 19. So season 18, you played. So I had to prepare myself to play the game by watching the previous season that happened to be you. So while I'm watching the show, I'm seeing this character develop, the Dragonslayer. And I thought that was so incredible. I thought it was so amazing how it was, and it wasn't just a joke either. It was like you was really the Dragon Slayer, and remember used to tell my ex-wife, I was like, man, I want to be something like that. I want to be, big like that, just bigger than the world type character. And my whole time casting, going through all that whole process, you were almost in every one of my speeches talking about the Dragon Slayer this, the Dragon Slayer that, and I just thought it was an amazing thing. And I knew I couldn't act like I was some kind of Dragon Slayer. And it was almost like I want to be something, but I don't want to copy. I don't want to copy what somebody else just did. But what you just did, it was never done before. You became bigger than life character. That may have been the biggest character in the entire, not only Survivor, in reality TV. It was an amazing thing. I'll tell you something else. During Redemption Island, when I got voted off, the production was taking me to the side, and they wanted it to be a huge scene with me getting voted off. So what they did was, he came up to me and said, man, let me tell you something. The biggest thing we've ever had on this show was the Dragon Slayer. When he was at, what was it? What'd they call it back then?
Exile
Island. Yeah. When you was on Exile Island, they said they could do a whole show on just what happened that day. You're standing on this mountain of sand with the eagles flying by you, and you were shredded, and you look like some kind. You look like some kind of what do you call it? Sensei that was full of wisdom. I mean, it was just that type of scene, and they did perfect, and you made it look like that. But I just wanted to say there would be no King Russell if there was no Dragon Slayer. So, you did an amazing job. I know we'll probably never be able to, this is the bottom line, Coach. Hey, we went out there, we did what we had to do. I had to do what I had to do. You had to do what you had to do. We probably can never trust each other, being frank, if we ever played again, which is fine. But I do want to say that I respect the way you played the game, and you was a big inspiration. I was a huge fan of yours when you played.
I appreciate you saying that. If you're trying to butter me up, it's working a little bit. I'll take
Right.
a little bit of the chip. I'll take a little bit of the chip off the shoulder, and I'll also reciprocate, man. I went out there and I said I want to change the game, and you came after me, and really changed it in a lot of ways that I could not touch. Mm-hmm. And my hat's off to you to play, back-to-back seasons. Looking back on both those seasons, you should have won one of them.
Right.
I'll just give you that for sure. But, I've got a lot of respect for what you've done to go out there. You're right. We probably will never trust each other. I don't really want to trust you. But,
I mean, that's fine.
I give you respect for being a big character. They've kind of gone away from those big characters, and maybe we'll talk about that later. But, my hat's off to you, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, and that's all fine and dandy. When it comes to playing the game, we really never really know till we out there. But right now, it's really hard to think that we could say all day long that, hey, I could play with you, and you could play with me, and all that stuff. But this is real, and this is a real podcast for real people that listen. So, we know we'd have a little situation if we played together, but maybe one day, and we'll get back into this a little bit later in the podcast. I want to talk about legends and the rumors of the legends of the game. But right now, I want to kind of talk about what just happened, the game changers. When you actually seen the cast, what did you think?
I was happy on one hand. You always want to see people that you've played with. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, I was disappointed. I had to actually go out there and research some of the people that were on there because I didn't know who they were. And so I was excited and at the same time scratching my head.
Yeah, and I think that could be a problem that CBX can easily fix. Now, I'm not saying I don't agree with a lot of the contestants that played, because I liked a lot of them, and I think that a lot of them should have played again. But the way they named it was a little confusing to me, and I believe it was confusing to the world watching.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it was a little bit like Fonzie jumping the shark in Happy Days. Right. I feel like they did a little bit, it was a little bit too much, and the name was misleading, and, I think they wanted it so bad. I really think in their own minds they want to create legends. They want legends to unfold as far as the characters themselves. And so they were probably pushing that name too much.
Do you think that they're trying to create legends? Do you think do you think that was in the back of their mind when they did Game Changers? That they're trying to create a couple of more, maybe All-Stars or Legends?
I think for sure. I think any time that they do a returning season, returning player season, I think that they are hoping for those people that are going to emerge as either great game players or game changers or characters.
Okay.
But they've gotten away from the characters. I think that I watch a season now, and all you hear in the last 5 seasons, big moves, big moves, big moves, big moves. Mm-hmm. And, somebody's got to be pushing that. And for me, that takes away from the individual person. When you look at the greats, you look at Russell, and you think, you don't really think, well, what did he do maybe strategy-wise, but you certainly knew what he did personality-wise. When you look at Boston Rob, when you look at, myself, people weren't talking in token chains, wow, what's Coach going to do next? What big move is he going to do next? But everybody was saying, what the hell is he going to say next, and what's he going to do next? And so I think that they've kind of gotten away from having these characters that are epic unfold that you remember. You remember a few big moves, but when it's all said and done, you're going to remember the individual more than you do the big moves.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%, because when you think, you're right, when you think Coach, you don't think, oh, what big moves did he do? You think Coach, the Dragonslayer. Like, you literally have that image in your head. I probably made a few moves out there that was considered big moves, but I was a character as well. I played as King Russell, and now our previous winner of Survivor was Sarah, When you think of Sarah, what do you think of? Like 2 years go by, what are you going to think of? Nothing.
Hmm.
You're going to think of, she did it. Now, I ain't going to say she didn't do a great job because she did. But the game to me is changing to the big moves are to stab your own alliance in the back. We didn't play like that. I didn't play like that. My alliance, and my alliance I stuck with no matter what and brought them to the end of the game. So nowadays they don't do that. They just stabbing everybody in the back, their own team, and then they think that that's a big move. It's not always a big move to stab your teammate in the back. It's just, I mean, do you
Right.
agree?
Yeah, I mean, I said the last time out that I played, I got 5 people together on day one, and I said day one alliances work, and I just put that into their head every day. Day one alliances, we get to the end, we get to the end. Now I look back at my season and think, man, that was like an impossibility that we actually did that on day one and got the same 5 people to the end. You look at this last season, Sandra, Tony, and a few others, they all got together early. And if they would have stuck with that, then especially with 2 winners, I think they could have gone a long way. Instead, they were trying to play too hard too soon. Tony and Sandra turned on each other. And what did you have? 2 early
Right.
outs.
Yeah, and the thing is, we both watched Sandra in Game Changers, and we both played with Sandra. That was not Sandra playing. That was Sandra trying to make big moves and actually play the game. Because
Yep.
Sandra's play is as long as it's not me. And she sits there and she does absolutely nothing. She doesn't ruffle any feathers, and that's how she gets further in the game. But this time, she was out there with people she actually thought she can control, and she tried to control them, and she ended up by going home because of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she may need to go back to her original strategy, as long as it's not me, because when she actually plays the game, because she actually tried to play the game this time, she doesn't do well.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of people that would benefit from being a loyal, I hate to say honorable, I hate to say that word, but people would benefit from going out there and getting an alliance and stop trying to make big moves. Make big moves, but make 1 or 2 in a season when the timing is perfect. Let other people make 1 or 2 big moves. But when everybody's trying to make big moves all the time, it doesn't work. People should evaluate their game and say, this is my bread and butter. Stop trying to play like somebody that you're not. Malcolm, Ozzy, Sandra, JT. JT cut his teeth the first season saying, hey, I'm going to stick with Steven and Taj, and we're going to dismantle the old Timbira tribe. And they stuck with each other. And each game that JT plays, I feel bad for him because he's gotten away from that good old boy, stick to your roots, a Southern gentleman, and he's gone out there and tried to play the game, and it's been to his own serious detriment.
Yeah, it's funny because JT, each time he played, he got more and more aggressive with that game. And
Yep.
and that's not how you play. They let production get in their head and big moves, big moves, big moves. And then all of it, that's a good example, JT. He goes out there and his first time he played, he did okay. He won the game. Second time he played, he tried to make big moves and played a little bit more aggressive. Third time he played even more aggressive. So, you
Yep.
know, as the game is growing, sometimes you don't need to grow as a person when it comes to Sandra would have did fine if she would have just sat back, did what she did, because it seemed like to me she was accepted out there already. So they were accepting
Right.
her.
Right.
They were accepting
Mm-hmm.
her. But when she started trying to play, they started saying, "Oh, Sandra, she's threatening." So then
Mm-hmm.
they started wanting to get rid of her then.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
So, I think that this season overall, I kind of liked it. It started getting better and better. Did you like the season overall? The game changers?
Um, yeah, I mean, I love Survivor, and I never watched it before I went on. I was trying to cram episodes during casting. I think that was part of why I was so fresh out there as
Right.
just a person. But, I mean, so I love Survivor now, and I watch every episode, and I liked it. There were some great moments. I do feel that in the past the past several seasons, there's a new element that has been implemented. You know, we can talk about how there are not any more big characters, so to speak, emerging because everybody's pushing big moves. But I will say that there's become a humanitarian element that where, you know, either they show the elements a little bit more, or they show, you know, people's breakdown a little bit more, or they show the humanitarian side of, of the contestants. And so, and I, you know, look at somebody like Zeke, and you look at his transformation over the course of 2 seasons and his blossoming. And so I think that they're doing a really good job on a few individuals. And I like the season. As you said, it started out bang, awesome first episode, and then it lagged for a couple of episodes. And hey, sometimes when there's a season without the king or the Dragonslayer on it, they don't have any content. It's not the producer's fault. It's the fact that there's no content out there.
It's not their fault.
You know, when you've got the goose that lays the golden egg time and time again, like you and me and a few others that can tell the story pretty freaking well, it just writes itself. So I think that it started to lag, but then it picked up and picked up and picked up and ended up, you know, the last 4 or 5 episodes, I was riveted. And I don't watch any spoilers, and I try to stay off social media during the episodes so that it's fresh for me. And I was surprised and thought, you know, that I actually thought Suri was going to win down that home stretch. So anyway, I liked it.
Yeah, I think Suri. I think she got the weenie on that last one, man. But that tribal council was amazing. But yeah,
yes, it was.
She had a shot, and she might have won it all if that wouldn't have happened to her, because she wasn't going home that day, you know.
Yep.
So you know that this podcast is fairly new. We're only in a couple of weeks, but we're getting extraordinarily great reviews. We're getting great numbers, and one of my best episodes is with a guy named Brandon Hantz. Have you heard it?
I have not heard it. No, I you know, I had a couple of people tell me about it, and I had your producer say, you know, take a listen to it. And I thought about it, and I did not listen to it.
Okay.
I just, you know, I mean, when somebody says something negative about me, and I don't know what was said, I'm sure you're going to fill me in on that. When somebody says something negative about me, you know, Survivor does not identify me. It becomes a lot of people's identity. Man, you know, like you, I'm a very proud father. I've got a great wife. I have very successful careers outside Survivor. In fact, today I'm going to go coach a semi-professional soccer game. I conduct my symphony. So, I mean, I've got my life. My identity is not in Survivor. It's a great little chapter of my life. If I were to run and listen to everything that somebody said something bad about me, I'd be bipolar, manic, depressive, psychotic. And so I have not heard about it, but I definitely want to address it, because especially when I heard that there was something about religion, you know, that's something that needs to be addressed.
Well, what I want to talk to you first, what he said was, there was a statement that I said that it's very public knowledge when I said that there's a flaw in the game. And I seriously believe that there is a flaw in the game, and it's called Ponderosa. So this is what he said. And I want to ask you if you think this is possible, or he's just, you know, talking out his ass. So Brandon said that when he got to Ponderosa, that he himself convinced most of the people not to vote for you. Do you think that that's possible?
I think that Ponderosa is something that is a detriment to the game. I feel, and I said this publicly, so I agree with you. I feel that if the jury were to be sequestered and not speak to each other, they would have different outcomes on almost every single season. And I know because people were calling me saying, I'm watching Ponderosa episodes and everybody's talking about you winning the game. Congratulations. And I didn't know if I'd won or lost. So I think do I think that Brandon got voted off and went to Ponderosa bitter? Of course. Do I feel that Ozzy got voted off and went to Ponderosa and was bitter? Absolutely. I was a victim of a bitter jury, whether it was Brandon that swayed them or Ozzy that swayed them. Based on the final tribal council, I would have to say that it was more Ozzy than Brandon, but the two of them teamed up, and the two of them were, you know, going around, getting tattoos, smoking dope, and that's cool. hey man, for to each his own, but they were like two peas in a pod.
Right.
I think that between the two of them, they influenced the decision. Absolutely.
That's a dangerous pair to be going against you. In a venue where everybody is being catered to, drinking, having a good time, saying, "Hey, maybe no, Coach did this to me. He did this to me. He did this." I mean, I don't know if you remember Jerry's exit interview. Just going by what I'm saying on at Ponderosa, and then how I think that's the flaw. Jerry's interview when she was leaving, y'all can Google it and find it somewhere. She was saying how I did an amazing job. I'm a great player. Then all of a sudden, she didn't vote for me. So, and what happened at Ponderosa. We don't have to go through exactly, but you were there when the decision to vote for me or not was implemented and how people were talking about me.
Yep.
So they were there, saying bad things about me when I'm not there to defend myself. That is a flaw.
Exactly. Right.
Just like Brandon and Ozzy is there talking about you negatively when you're not there to defend yourself. That is a flaw in the game, folks. And
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So that's where it is. It's at Ponderosa. I can guarantee you, if they would have separated them from the get-go in Samoa, I would have won. In season 19. But that's for another. I'm doing a whining with wine podcast. That I'll whine about that. I'll whine about that with my wine later on. So yeah, man. We both agree there's a flaw in the system. Brandon did his thing. When the religion thing came in, he was just saying. You see, Brandon didn't. I guess he just didn't understand the fact that he doesn't think that. I believe that it was real. When you're praying and you're trying to help them through Jesus, I think that you are being genuine. Brandon thought that was all an act, that you were only doing it for gameplay.
Well, my wife said it the best about Brandon. When you watch him play in his last season, it validates my leadership on my last season with him.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because he was such a loose cannon. And I had him corralled. I had him pointed in the right direction because from the very get-go, he was having meltdown after meltdown. And listen, I love Brandon Hantz, period. I think that he has a great heart. I think that he's had circumstances in his life that have beat him down, and he's had to overcome obstacles that I've never had to overcome. But I love that guy, and he can talk bad about me every single day. I'm not trying to change his mind right now. But I'm just putting out there that I looked at him like he was a younger brother, and I took him under my wing. Now, something that is very important in my life, and I might be rough around the edges, but I pastor a small church twice a month, and I've done that for almost the last decade. Being a Christian man is very important to me. Do I make mistakes? Absolutely. Do I trip up? Absolutely. I try to own my actions. But in that game, something that is super critical when you take away the cell phones and your network and your whole days are based on fear of getting voted out and uncertainty, you grab onto what you hold on to in real life. At least I do, and that is I hold on to my relationship with Christ, and I hold on to who I am on the inside. And you can't take either one of those things away. And so as the game was going on, we bonded. If we had all been hairdressers, we would have bonded over hairdressing.
Exactly.
But we happen to all be religious. 5 of those people, four or five of us were very religious. And so in those moments, just like when I coached at a Christian college, we'd pray before a game, we'd pray after a game. I did that out there, and it was very natural and it was very real. I will agree that as we got down the home stretch, my reality and my perception were still spot on, but I was trying to figure out how to win the game and continue to be honest to 5 people and plus 1 with Ozzy to try to, get to the end and be in with everybody. But the crazy thing about Brandon is that I told him to his face, do not give away this immunity necklace or you will be voted out. And everybody else was telling him, give it away, give it away. Albert was like, give it away, give it away. So for him to be mad at me, the only person that was telling him the truth in the 11th hour, for him to be mad at me, I told him what was going to happen. I said, do not give the necklace away. If he had not given that necklace away, it would have been me, Brandon, and Sophie in the final three.
Who do you think would have won?
I would have won. I think I would have won because then you would have had Albert on the jury, and Albert was, one of my closest allies, and I think that he would have respected my game, and he and I have talked about it afterwards. I think that I would have won.
Right.
But, not in the cards. I can't think about that. It's crazy if I think about the.
That's actually a very excellent way of saying what went down, and your wife was spot on with that, because when you think about it, Brandon was completely controlled when he played with you, and then I'm not saying he was controlled as like I may control like a puppet, but he almost went to you as a father figure, almost like no, Brandon, don't do that, and he respected you as a man and as a fellow Christian to stay stable and stay straightforward, and then when you wasn't there,
you need. Sorry, go ahead.
And when you wasn't there, he went a little crazy, So he needs that. He needs.
I might have a lot of flaws, man, but I'm a great coach, and that was one of the things that drove me crazy about the first season that I played, is that nobody's really looking for a coach out there. I get that. But I was trying to be a coach, and I was beating my head against a wall, and it wasn't being effective like it is in real life. Right. And so with Brandon, he was on my team. And as a coach and as a leader, you've got to get the best out of people. And I got the best out of Albert. He was a great competitor in the team setting. And I called him G-Dub. I called him the game winner because he would win those important challenges for us. And Brandon, I had him focused and driven and ready to run through a brick wall.
Right.
And he was a great team player, man. I love that team. That Upolo, I have the Upolo flag in my home. I don't have any survivors, mementos, except for that, because I felt like that tribe really did want to coach. And so I was able to thrive in that environment.
Do you think that was the best tribe you've ever had?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I talked to Jeff. I talked to Probst after it was all said and done, and I said, "Hey, man, as a friend, as a producer, do you think that I should play again? Because I feel like I could never do better than this time. I mean, I led my tribe from day one. Nobody ever wrote my name down. I controlled the game from start to finish." And he says, "As a friend, I would tell you never play the game again. As a producer, I wish you were on every season." Yeah. And so, but it was a bit of wisdom that he told me, because it was just such a great run. I just wish I would have won, obviously.
Right. Yeah, well, we can both sit here and think about something that's going to drive us crazy for the rest of our life, or we can choose to move on, But so now...
But as I've said before many times, Russell, we might see eye to eye on some things, and we might seriously disagree on other things. But as I tweeted this before the last Survivor finale, the winners are the people that are remembered forever. That's the definition of a legend. And you and I, fortunately, fall in that category. I would much rather be remembered and have not won than to have won and nobody knows who I am 3 seasons later.
Okay, well, that brings me to my next topic, and it's a topic that I believe that everybody that's listening to this is sitting waiting to hear, and it's a rumor that's going around that they will soon be doing, or they're thinking about doing, a legend season. It's just a rumor. I don't know, this isn't spoilers. I have no clue, but let's just say that they do a legend season. What I did was I went online. I went on that Reddit page here, and I brought up a list of names. The first list of names that came up, I'm gonna read this list of names, and we're gonna talk right now about who we agree and disagree with, and who we believe that's gonna belong on a Legends season. Now, this is the list. I didn't go and look for a specific list. I brought up the first list that came up, so it just happened to have these names in it. Here it is. Richard Hatch, Sandra, Rob, Boston Rob, Russell, Ozzy, Rupert, Cochran, Sari, Parvati, Coach, Fairplay, Tony, Tyson, Amanda, Malcolm, Stephanie, which that must be Stephanie we played with, uh, James, which I'm assuming it's Big James, Rob C, Sari, and JT. Now, JT's going to have to get scratched out of that list right off the bat because of what just happened. I think that he could have made himself a legend, but he's no longer a legend. Is there anything in that list that makes you kind of cringe?
Well, let me just go back for a second. CBS would be foolish to not do a legend season. I'm retired from the game. I don't know what it would take to get me out of retirement, but I've got a young family. I really don't want to go out there for a month and a half and be out there. But CBS, to put some type of closure on this monolith that they have created, they've got to do some type, and it can't just be an all-stars. It can't be heroes, villains 2. It can't be fans versus phase 16. It's got to be a season that they designate is a Legends of the Game. That name has been thrown out there, not by CBS, but by fans, and I think they owe it to the fans. Just says every single finale, thank you to the fans that make this happen. I mean, if they really care about the fans, then they would do a legend season. I just want to say that. So, we start at the top of the list. I think Richard Hatch, he was the original, man, and he's entertaining as hell, and he'll go out there, and you won't have to ask him to make big moves because that's actually, part of his character.
Okay,
so
I agree.
Richard Hatch.
I agree on Richard
100%.
Hatch. I'm writing his name down. Richard Hatch. Sandra, to me, that's a tough one, but I mean, what do you think?
I think yes, because she's got to go back to her old style of playing. But I think yes to Sandra because there's always tons of guys that you remember, and there are fewer female powerhouses. Mm-hmm. And Sandra, for what it's worth, is a powerhouse player, so I say yes.
Well, I'm going to have to say yes, too, because even though I don't want to say it, because I know she's going to be only coming after me if I'm out there, if I happen to be out there. But but yeah, I agree. Sandra's a legend. I mean, 2-time winner. Can't take that from her, no matter if she would have been voted out first. If she even played again and voted out first again, she's a legend. You think about it when you talk about Survivor. Okay, I'm not. Yep. We don't even have to discuss this. Boston Rob, yeah, okay, whatever. We know he's going to be on that list. So Boston Rob's a legend. You agree?
Of course, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. How about next one is me, Russell. You think
man,
Russell's a legend?
Yes, man. You're in the top. You're in like the top 2 or 3, and I'm not just saying that because you gave me some props earlier. I mean, you're in the top, man. Like in the top. There's the first tier legends, the second tier legends, the third tier, and then the maybes. And I think that they have 2 tiers for sure, and they're working on the third and fourth.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, this one you had a little rough time with. Ozzy, is he a legend?
I mean, I saw him this last time. I was actually, pulling for him. Mm-hmm. He made me very bitter in my season because of how he pontificated at the jury, and really was very vocal and very loud and very aggressive in his speech. And I get it; he wanted his final 15 seconds of fame. Right. But he's good in challenges, and so I think he's a guy that would be considered. I would think that Ozzy's going to be on that third tier. So he's there, but he's not in the top 10.
See,
I would say yes.
I kind of disagree. I think he's one of the top. I think Ozzy's going to be in the legend season. He has to be. Okay, Rupert. I mean, he played what? He played what? 10 times.
When they announce Rupert again, half of America is going to be like, "I do not want to see that asshole ever again." But then the other. Right. The other half is going to say, "We love him, please. We need Rupert in our lives."
Let me tell you a quick story about Rupert real fast. Remember when we did the People's Choice Awards?
Yep.
You were one of that group. We had, 5 or 6 people from the group in there? Well,
yep.
Rupert, I wasn't saying nothing about fan favorite, nothing. Sandra told me on the island, she said, "Man, we got to get Rupert out of here because he's going to win fan favorite." Like, she was concentrating on that. I was like,
That's
okay.
crazy. That's
I
crazy.
was like, all right, we'll see about that, because I knew how y'all didn't get to see my first season. I knew how well I did, so I knew I had a shot for fans' favorite my first time. So anyway, when we did the People's Choice Awards, I had a few drinks. I'm sitting there, all all decked out, and I turned to Rupert and I'm like, Rupert. He looks, and we're sitting right next to each other. I said, "Hey, man, I'm winning fan favorite." he said, he was like, "No way, no way, you beat me, no way." I was like, "We'll see, we'll see." So that was like a thing with me and Rupert when it came down to the actual win of the fan
Interesting.
favorite. But anyway, okay, yeah,
Interesting.
I agree. I think that Rupert's he's a legend.
Yeah, no, he's a top tier player. He's a top tier legend.
Okay, what about Cochran?
So the kid gloves that CBS treats Cochran with is really unbelievable. I mean, if I were in every finale, if you were in every finale, and they had to get a picture shot of you, everybody would get tired of it. We
Mm-hmm.
see Cochran every season. We see him every finale. And Cochran's my man. I mean, I love him. If we played together again, Cochran and I can guarantee you he would put me out first. A, because I'm going to get more airtime than him, and he always talks about that. And B, because
Wow.
he probably is still bitter that I voted his ass off when he played with me the first time. But I like Cochran. He's had probably one of the biggest transformations in the game, from going, complete wallflower to going out there and owning
Uh,
his last season and winning it. So I mean,
I,
I think he's a legend.
I don't. I disagree with that one. I think that Cochran, and trust me, I give credit where credit's due. I said Sandra was a legend. I said Rob was a legend, because they are. Cochran, in my opinion, is not a legend. He was the first person in the history of the game to orchestrate a pregame alliance and win. So yeah, that's where we'll leave that. And I don't agree with that. So you know what? I'm not putting him in, because we both have to agree to put him on this list. So I'm not
Okay.
putting him on. Suri.
Yeah, she's awesome. You know what? I had so much respect for her this game, and I also had respect for how she handled herself as a woman and how she handled her narration of her story, and how she also kept. Was it Michaela? Who was the other girl that she was aligned with that was spastic? That
Michaela,
was going.
yes.
Michaela. Yeah, I loved
Spastic.
how she it actually reminded me of my relationship with Brandon, and so I really like that. She's a definite.
Suri is the first person that I know of. Super fans might be able to tell me something different, but she's the first person that I know of that Jeff literally just invited her to the legend season by out loud vocally saying that Suri's a legend.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yep.
So Suri is there 100%. Parvati.
Yeah, I'm curious what you think about Parvati, but I mean, Parvati for me, even though she was, somebody that voted me out, she's awesome. She's such a great character. I mean, you look at big characters. To me, she's got everything. She's good in challenges. She's got the flirt card, big time.
Parvati. This is
She's got a good mind. At least that's what it looks like when I watch her on TV. I was never privy to the inner circle, alliance that you guys had, but I would say for sure.
Well, this is what I think about her. It was perfectly said, and when people say what's, and I'm sure she's going to hear this, so it's whatever. But it was perfectly said to me by a head executive with CBS. She said, when Parvati walks in a room, she oozes sex appeal. And
Hmm.
that is an exact description of Parvati. Now, I'm not saying she's a slut or this or that, but she is so charming. It's crazy. I mean, and that's how I describe Parvati when people ask me, well, how is her personality? She has such a great personality. She is so charming, then she can stab you in the back and you don't even see it coming.
Yeah. Yep.
Malcolm kind of said he was saying how he's like that. Oh, they're gonna love me, then I'm gonna stab him in the back. No, that's not the case. Parvati is the real deal when it comes to, uh, she's at the top of the game when it comes to charm and getting people to like her to go further in the game and then voting them out. So
Yep.
I believe she is a legend.
Yep. I agree.
Okay, now there he is, Coach. I believe you are. 100% a legend. You created the whole character thing, man. You really the one that created that in the Survivor world. So to me, you were the game changer. So I believe you're a legend. Okay, fair play.
Yeah, I think fair play for me. When we went out and did Heroes and Villains, I thought, you know what, he's done. We'll never see him again. But as time goes on, I feel like his character stands out even more. And so, the grandma lie, I know that people like to kind of go on that and say, oh, he's for sure the man because of that. Or other people like to say, oh, he quit the last game and was voted out, but he basically quit. And so there's like two sides of the fence. I think that there's been enough time lapsed that if he went out there again, he'd be hungry as hell. And he'd want to go out there and come up with new stuff to be up there. And so I think that he is a legend.
I agree. I think fair play. So whoever did this list, it's the first thing. If you look up Survivor Legends cast, let me see if I can see who did it. Or/Survivor U/KERMIT54. Whoever that is, this is really a good list, actually.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah.
So the next one, number 12, is Tony. I mean, the only thing wrong with this list is we're about to run out of guys real fast before before we get to the girls. But besides that, yeah, so far so good. Tony, you think he's a legend?
I don't think so. I think that his first season was legendary.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like on the last season that his shtick was already old.
Right.
I felt like, the llama and the spy shack or, the spy bunker. I just felt like that first season, the gifts rained down on him in the most unusual way for him to keep in the game and have that idol that he could play after, everything was said and done. It seemed odd to me, but that season he will come off as one of the craziest, most powerful winners of a single season.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't see it, man. I don't see it. I think that there are other people, you look at people that are not on this list, like, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that, but like Zeke and Ty and other people that have kind of been more consistent. Tony's got one season in him, and then he was voted off too early. So I don't think that he is on that list.
Yeah, I think if Tony would have did well in this season, it could have put him, but I think because of what just happened, Tony's off the list. He's done.
Yep.
So taking Tony off. Tyson. We're going to have different opinions on this. What do you think?
It's interesting because, the question is, did the last season help or hurt him? Because if you look at token teams, and I have felt bad for Tyson from the very beginning, except for the $1 million that he won.
Right.
And he actually took my place because they asked me to be on that season, and I turned him down. And so he actually got in on the 11th hour because I turned him down, and I'm still waiting for a cut of that $1 million.
Right.
But his first season was so awesome. If I hadn't have been there, that's all people would have been talking about. His second season, Heroes and Villains, I think he did a good job as far as his character, a little bit under the radar. And then the last time he went out, people want to see that first token genes of Tyson. People want to see that first token genes of Dragonslayer. Right? People want to see the king from Samoa. Mm-hmm. So I think that Tyson, for me, he's on the fence. As much as I would love to see him out there, you're going to veto me anyway. So
right. No, well, no.
Yes, I'll say yes, he's a legend, but you're going to veto me anyway. So he won't be on the list.
Well, I don't have any problem with Tyson personally. I never did. That crazy play that happened with Tyson, it was just, we both were on I was on the better side of the play. No big deal. But to me, Tyson is on the fence. That's what I would think. I think he's on the fence of legendary status. And I think that a lot of people are going to agree with that, just that right there. And it's going to be up to, a couple of people in CBS and production to figure out, do we put Tyson in or not? Because you're going to have to take, because Tyson is going to do exactly what you just said. He's going to take the place of people like Zeke and Ty, because they are all on the fence to me.
Yep.
So I think that that's going to be a tough one. I ain't going to better put him on the list right now. but he's definitely on the fence.
Yep.
Amanda.
Sure.
Why not?
Amanda, I mean, it's like now we're getting down a step to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going down a step. And I feel like Amanda, yeah, she'll be a legend.
I agree. Man, I think Amanda's way better than you think. I think she's a great player. I had extensive conversation with Amanda, and I just seen how good how hard she was playing that game. I think she's going to be a legend. I think it's going to be tough to find 10 lady legends, and I think she has to be one if she's not having a baby like the rest of them.
Yeah.
Okay, Malcolm.
Malcolm's got to fly right. If Malcolm listens to this, which I'm sure he does, I'm sure he Googles his name every day and listens to stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. There's people out there that do that, and he's one of them.
Right.
If Malcolm Googles this and he listens to this, Malcolm, please stop trying to be somebody you're not when you're out there. Don't try to be another Parvey. Play an honorable game. Latch onto my coattails and do what I do as far as be a straight-up guy, man.
Well, to be fair,
the
Malcolm
game doesn't work for you.
Yeah, to be fair, Malcolm's just trying to make production happy and just try to rub up against them. Malcolm could have had a great game if he would have played a little differently. But I
agree. But I don't know about Malcolm as far as a legend. I think Joe would beat Malcolm out. They're going to have a couple of pretty boys. I'm not one of them.
If you was going to tell me, I pick Joe too. I agree with that. Malcolm is not a legend. No matter how much CBS wants to throw that in your face and keep throwing, there's a few people that CBS wants to keep throwing in your face, conquering Malcolm. They are not legends. Let's talk about Golden Boy. They called me the Golden Boy for a split second, but that ended quickly. They called
me the Mr. Polar, I think, for a minute. Anyway.
Yeah.
Next one.
So I disagree with Malcolm. He's off the list. Stephanie. I guess that's LaGrossa.
Stephanie LaGrossa. Yeah. So she wasn't that much of a factor in Heroes and Villains, but I got to tell you that one of the most emotionally attached episodes was when I was sitting in casting in my hotel room watching an episode, whichever one she was on with. She got voted down to a tribe of one, and she was sitting there weeping over the fire in her little cave. My heart was breaking. So because of that moment, I would say yes, because it was such a legendary moment. And like you said, they want to have good females. I think she would do it again. So for me, she is. Maybe just because of that moment that puts her on that list for me.
Okay, all right. Well, for me, she's not really a legend because of what happened in Heroes and Villains, but it could be. I think somebody like Aubrey is going to take her place. Aubrey's not on this list, but I think Aubrey just became legendary status after this season. She's one of the girls. So I'm going to go ahead and put. You agree? Do you think Aubrey's a legend now?
I think Aubrey is definitely, her transformation as well. Her character development has been phenomenal. So, yes, I think that she should be on that list.
Okay, yeah. So now Stephanie's off and Aubrey's on. Okay, big boy, Big James.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Every single season, CBS tries to replace James.
Yep.
Every season.
Yep.
Every season, there's a big black guy out there.
Yep. They try.
And it doesn't come close, man. To me, there will never be another James.
Never.
He was so humble and angry and shy and out there. And he runs the gamut. And he is such more of a complex individual, I think, that people give him credit for. But when he smiles, he lights up the room. When he's angry, you want to get the hell out of the room.
That's for damn
sure. I think for sure he's a legend.
Yeah, I think that James, it would be a shame if he's not this isn't racist, but this is how it is, the token black guy. James is my boy. If he's not on that legendary season, then it's fixed. The fix is in. Because James, by the way, me and James are the only two-time fan favorite. So he won it twice, I won it twice. Because he was so popular. James is definitely a legend of the game. Nobody can even come close, in my opinion.
Right.
When it comes to, almost like Greek god type characters. He's like
Yep.
his body it shines like it's crazy shredded. Do you know that James eats bad? He smokes. He does not work out. James does not work out. Okay, now
That's funny.
when you say people are like, "Oh, you full of crap," does not take steroids. Like James is, that's called God given. That's a gift straight from the hands of God that built that body.
Yep.
But anyway,
Yep.
so now we have. I think the only reason this guy's on the list is because he happens to have a podcast, and his name is Rob. Again, another
Yep.
Rob. So Rob,
Hey, by the way,
shout out to Rob has a podcast. Shout out, you see, I don't think we compete with each other. I think we complement each other. So shout out to he has a great podcast. Go listen to it if you ain't heard it yet. But I think that he's on this list because of that. Because no matter how much I like to listen to his podcast, he's not a legend. Sorry, Rob. What do you think?
Well, first of all, let me just say this. I got to go coach my game in 5 minutes. So
Okay,
I got to
we'll go
buzz
quick.
through the rest. I got to buzz through the rest of this list. But
There's
Rob
only-
Cesternino, I don't even know who that is, man. I mean, as far as like Survivor play,
He's good.
I mean, maybe that's because I haven't watched it. I mean, I didn't watch those seasons, but I don't even know who that is. I know he's got a good podcast. I've been on it, but he's a great guy, fan of the game. He's built himself up a great niche in this world to do these podcasts, and my hat's off to him. But I don't think he's on this list.
Okay, we got one more actually, and then I got one question I want to ask you from a fan. A couple of questions, and be real quick. Sierra, the one that voted out her own mom.
You got Sierra, you've got Jerry Manti, you've got you've got a couple of people that are in this category. Corin, you've got
Corinne,
Amanda.
yes.
There's a couple of people that are not. There's a lot of girls that are not on this list. Crazy Cass. And so when I look at those girls, I think Sierra is another one that's played so hard, so much, and she should just step back and stop trying to make big moves and let the game flow around her, and she'd do better. I'm on the fence about her. I don't have a clear answer.
I agree. She's on the fence, and we can get back into this later on. JT's the last one on the list, and we already discussed that. So we could get more in depth with the Legend season, maybe on another podcast. But a fan wants to know, will you ever play again? That seems like the question that we always been asked. Will you play again, Coach?
Yeah. I mean, I told the casting department last time they called me for Blood versus Water, and I thought about doing it. At the end, I said no. I might have one more in me, and
all right.
That would be, that might be for a Legend season. It might be to go out there and teach you a few things.
Yeah, that's for sure. Hey, Coach, it's better to play with me than against me. Just saying. Okay, next question.
I learned that the hard way, you asshole. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Next question by King Killer 33. He wants to know, how good a relationship do you really have with Tyson outside the game?
Yeah, we're friends, man. It's like we both have families now. So how good of a relationship can you have? I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for him, and he with me. But life ticks on.
Okay.
So I kind of yep.
A guy named Wayward Son wants to know, which season did you enjoy the most?
What season did I enjoy the most besides all three of mine?
Right.
I love
No. Your season.
I love Token Cheese is like old school. Just as a fan, old school. You had JT, Steven, Coach, Tyson. You had some really good, authentic, fresh characters in that season. It was old school. You had Exile Island, 18 Castaways. No funny idols that they have now, so I would have to say that's my favorite.
All right, one more question.
I was on it.
One more question, and I believe this one's by my producer. He actually wants to know, let's see, my question for Coach is when you got Cochran to flip, was it already the plan to vote Cochran once he was no longer useful as a number, or did Coach plan to truly bring Cochran into your fold?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, in that moment, we had to get somebody to flip. As my relationship with Cochran grew in the game, I realized that I put myself into a terrible situation because people like Cochran and Edna that I wanted to take with me, I was bound by my alliance. I would imagine that if I had not voted as I voted, and I would not have ended up with the final five, that most of the people out there would have considered me a laughing stock, and I would have had false honor and integrity. I rode that horse all the way to the ground.
Right.
And so the answer is, I was hoping against hope. When we had a meeting and Cochran said, hey, you need to vote out Brandon. He's a loose cannon. Keep me. Edna said the same thing, and they begged for us to do it. I actually put it to my team and said, let's vote to this. And I pushed for Cochran to stay, but I knew at the end of the day that I really couldn't go against my alliance of five. And so I was hoping that something would happen and he would be into the fold, and then if he would have been put into the fold, I would have taken him the whole way.
Right.
But I couldn't go against my own word and my own alliance at the end of the day.
Okay, it's fair enough. All right, Coach. Well, I know you don't do interviews or podcasts on a regular basis, that's for sure. And I sure appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate it. And if anything I've ever done, hey, it's part of the game, my friend. We had to do it, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, I'll say that I appreciate you having me on. Your numbers are great. And, hats off to you for getting out of the gates fast. And I respect you as a character and as somebody that is a big, big personality and a force in the game. And so, that's why I decided to do it. And I appreciate you having me on, my man.
All right, man. Well, maybe I'll see you again somewhere out there. And until then, Godspeed, my brother.
All right, man.
You have a good one.
All right, peace.
Later. Okay, y'all. That was my interview with Coach. Stay tuned for updates on the Patreon group and the premiere show. See you soon.